truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon, sir. Could you please state your full name and spell your first name and your last name for us?
My full name is Eric Perry. My first name is E-R-I-C. My last name is P-E-R-R-Y.
And are you employed, sir?
Yes, I am.
And how are you employed, please?
I am a special agent with the Federal Bureau of Investigation.
And could you tell us, please, what is your current assignment with the FBI?
I am a full-time member of our Cellular Analysis Survey Team, which goes by the acronym of CAST, C-A-S-T.
And is that your current complete duty and responsibility with the FBI?
Yes, it is.
And could you tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury, how long have you been involved in law enforcement, please?
Close to 20 years now.
And could you tell us, please, where you went to? Did you go to college?
Yes, I did.
And where was that, please?
It was actually in northern Maine, the University of Maine at Presque Isle, up along the New Brunswick-Canadian border.
And when you graduated from University of Maine, could you tell us, please, what was your first form of employment?
Out of college, I was hired by the National Park Service as a law enforcement ranger. And
when was that, please?
that was in 1995.
And since that time, could you tell us sort of in regards to law enforcement, where you have been employed and what your duties and responsibilities have been, please?
As a law enforcement ranger for the Park Service, we enforce federal laws pertaining to the natural resources and to criminal violations that occur within the National Park Service. That occurred at Mesa Verde National Park in Colorado, down the Four Corners. I did that for approximately 3 years, at which time I was hired by the Colorado State Patrol, and that occurred in 1998. I was, after graduating the academy, I was assigned to the Durango field office, again in the Four Corners. I have a total of approximately 11 years as a state trooper. I was then hired by the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and to date I have about 7 years with the Federal Bureau of Investigation, in which we investigate all federal crimes, bank robberies, fugitives, kidnappings, extortions, threats, terrorism matters.
And when you were first hired by the FBI, you had already had experience as a state trooper, as you've described, correct?
Yes, I had.
And after you were hired, did you receive additional training through the FBI initially when you were hired?
I actually attended the FBI Academy, the Law Enforcement Academy in Quantico, Virginia. I believe it was right around 20 to 22 weeks of additional Law Enforcement Academy training.
And after you attended the FBI Academy, where were you assigned?
I was first assigned at the Fresno field office out of the Sacramento Division in California.
And what were your duties there?
I was assigned as the violent crime agent for the field office, again with the main focus of robberies, kidnappings, murders, fugitives, working with the state and local agencies there to assist them in their violent crime matters.
And since that time, could you describe to us, please, what additional assignments you've had with the FBI?
In 2011, I received a substantial amount of training with regards to the cellular technology and call detail record analysis.
And could I just, where were you assigned at that point?
That I was actually in the New York field office.
And for what period of time is your current assignment place you in your normal place of duty in the New York office?
Yes, my position is held out of headquarters, or FBI headquarters in Washington, D.C., but I am detailed to the New York office with a focus of the Northeast region.
And so when did you first, prior to this training that you received in cellular analysis, that you were assigned to the New York field office?
Yes, it was.
And could you tell us, please, about how long have you been assigned to New York?
I actually have been in New York since March of 2010.
And what was your first assignment when you were sent to the New York field office? Well, did you perform law enforcement duties when you were, as you've described them already, when you were first assigned to the New York field office?
Yes, I did.
And in the performance of those duties, did you become involved in the analysis of cellular phones and things related to them.
Yes.
And could you describe how it was that you started to become involved in that, and then what additional training you got?
Actually, when I first started utilizing the technique of cellular analysis was actually in 2007. As we start in our investigation, the cellular called detail reports that are generated by the phone providers became a key bit of information in helping us locate victims of crimes, known suspects, and creating patterns of life for individuals based on their phone usage. And as that was actually a great benefit to our vast number of investigations, such as fugitives, attempting to locate these individuals, historically placing an individual in a general area of a crime or alleged incident, the locating of victims of automobile accidents and search and rescues, as well as deceased individuals.
And did, as you became involved in that in your normal duties, did you receive additional training?
Yes, I did.
And could you describe for our jury, please, what additional training you received and when you received it?
I received my initial certification as a member of the CAST team in 2011. That was a 6-week program and which entailed about 260 hours of initial training, which was provided by most of the major cell phone providers such as AT&T, T-Mobile, Verizon, Sprint, Metro PCS, and Cricket Wireless. We received training from their records subpoena compliance group, which deals with the records that is maintained in their normal business practice, as well as their engineers that are responsible for maintaining and developing their networks. We also received training from a third-party contractor called ETS, which is Emerging Technology Solutions. This is a third-party contractor based out of Mooresville, North Carolina, that also trains members of our Department of Defense as well as other federal agencies with regards to RF technology and cellular technology, as well as call detail record analysis. So between the major providers and the third-party contractor, they were the substantial part of our initial training. After receiving that, we have continuing education that's provided by outside contractors, as well as the continuing education with the providers. As technology advances, as we are in the LTE and the 4G time frame or age, we also need to, to obtain additional training to maintain proficiency in the new technologies, which is, like I said, provided by the providers.
And approximately how much training have you received in this area, please?
To date, it's well over 400 hours.
And after receiving your training, have you had opportunities to employ what you've learned prior to June of 2013?
I'm sorry? Can you repeat the
Before
question?
June of 2013, had you been involved in actually using that information in regards to cellular analysis?
Yeah, quite frequently on a daily basis.
And sort of what types of circumstances had you previously used that information that you obtained in your training?
Objection, relevance.
Sustained.
Prior to June of 2013, approximately how many times did you perform cellular analysis, please?
So prior to that, it'd probably be close to 1,000 different times. I mean, 1,000, looking at analyzing of about 1,000 records.
And prior to June of 2013, did you have an understanding of the T-Mobile network in their records?
Yes, they were actually part of our initial training and ongoing continuing education.
Prior to June of 2013, did you have an understanding of the AT&T network and their records?
Again, yes, they were part of our initial training and ongoing continuing education.
And prior to June of 2013, did you have an understanding of the the Verizon network and their records?
Yes, and this, again, same thing. They were another company that was part of the initial training, as well as providing ongoing annual updated training.
And was it the same for Sprint as well?
Yes.
Now, did you receive records of 5 cellular telephones in relationship to this case?
Yes, I did.
And did those records include cell site location information?
Yes, they did.
And Could you tell us, please, specifically, did you receive those records in relationship to a Sprint telephone 860-845-4304?
Yes, that's one of the phones.
And did you also receive records in relationship to an AT&T cell phone number 860-502-2593?
Yes.
Did you receive those records in regards to a AT&T cellular telephone uh, 203-606-8969?
Yes, sir.
Did you receive those records in relationship to a Verizon telephone number 860-462-0951?
Yes, I did.
And did you also receive records in relationship to a T-Mobile cellular telephone number 617-785-3008?
Yes, I did.
And those were cell site location information records, among other things, but for a period of time of June 16th into the morning of June 18th of 2013. Is that correct?
Yes.
And with those records, did you also receive the cell tower location information for each one of those cellular telephones as you've described?
Yes, I did.
Now, when you received those records, were you familiar with them at that time?
With the specific number or the formatting of
The formatting and understanding what the record showed.
Yes, I'm very familiar with the formatting.
And were you able to, on the basis of reviewing those records, locate the cell tower information as it relates to certain calls and locate the towers on a map?
Yes, it was.
And could you just describe to the jurors how it is that you go through that process of doing that, please?
The cell phone providers will provide you with the call activity on a particular phone number, which will include the voice activity, SMS or text messaging, and data connection. Most providers will also provide you a cell tower key, which has the location of each individual cell tower within their network. There's identical information contained on the call detail records for the phone number that was being used, as well as the cell tower key. And by locating that identical information and then determining the location of the cell tower, which is provided most often in a GPS coordinate, we're able to determine where that tower is located and when, the date and time in which that phone communicated with that cell tower for a particular event.
And that process, have you followed that process in other cases where you have performed cellular analysis? as you've described it, looking at these records and identifying that.
Do I call that cellular now? Or?
No, I'm sorry. That process that you've just described, looking at those records and identifying that information, is that the same thing you do in all of your other cases as well?
Yes, that's the term that we use in the process of cellular analysis, or called detailed record analysis.
And is that process that you perform, does that allow you to locate the towers that are used in the course of certain events, cellular events, where they are on a map?
Yes, it does.
Now, have you then been able to prepare a series of maps showing the location of the cellular telephone towers that were used during the course of communication events contained in the records of those 5 cellular telephones?
Yes, it was.
And if I may approach the witness, Your Honor. I'll show you this. You recognize that?
Yes, I do.
And would you recognize that to be, please?
This is a thumb drive with my initials of EP, and this will should contain the results of my exhibits.
And on that, you've located the cellular telephone towers and the communications. Is that correct?
That's the results of my analysis and visual exhibits.
This is the next example.
Objection. Well, we just have to slide.
Right, but are you offering the,
It in its electronic format, Your Honor, in the digital form.
could I see counsel? It may be marked as the next exhibit. You may, but first let me give you some instructions, ladies and gentlemen, regarding this exhibit. It purports to be a compilation based, according to the witnesses' testimony, on records that already have been introduced into evidence in this case. It is up to you whether to credit or not credit that testimony, taking into account the underlying records as well as verbal testimony from other witnesses. You should keep in mind that this witness simply claims to have made an after-the-fact compilation and does not claim to be the original maker of business records. To the extent that you may find this exhibit relevant in evaluating any issue in this case, you should always keep in mind that it is simply a compilation that was admitted because it might be of some assistance to you. You are the sole judge of the accuracy of any compilation marked as an exhibit.
Now, Agent Perry, just with reference to exhibit number 422, could you explain what this shows, please?
This is a visual demonstration or a visual exhibit to portray to the jury how we're able to determine or conduct cellular analysis.
Your Honor, I'm sorry, I have an objection to this page. This is not a compilation of any record, and I object to this being part of an
The objection
exhibit.
is sustained. You may, it can be stricken later from the exhibit, and
When you read the record, Agent Perry, are you able to determine how the tower is oriented and what are the faces of the tower?
We are. As I stated before, the cell tower, cell phone providers will provide the cell tower locations. In that information is what we call an orientation or a compass heading, in which a particular sector will provide service, or in which a direction the radio frequency for that sector will be transmitted. AT&T is one of the companies that will actually incorporate that information into their call detail records.
And right there on the record itself, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And when you looked at the AT&T record for this cellular telephone number 203-606-8969, beginning on June 16th of 2013, just before 9 p.m., were you able to locate the tower that particular cellular telephone was communicating with just prior to 9 p.m.?
Yes, I was.
And is that reflected here on your on exhibit number 422?
Yes, it is.
And could you tell us what that location was, please?
It's actually going to be just left the center of the exhibit and the zoomed in. It's going to be reflected by the blue dot, which represents the AT&T cell tower.
And that AT&T cell tower is located right in the vicinity of Landry Avenue in North Attleboro, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And did you look at the record to determine for what period of time the phone 203-606-8969 continued to communicate with that tower?
I did.
And have you shown that there?
They're reflected in the white text box by the date and time.
And could you tell us until what time did the phone continue to communicate with that tower?
I located several events starting on June 16, 2013, starting at 8:59 p.m., 9:02 p.m., 9:03 p.m., actually 3 events at 9:03 p.m., 1 at 9:05 p.m., and 1 at 9:07 p.m.
And after 9:07 p.m., looking at the record, what happened with regards to the tower that particular phone, 8969, was communicating with, please?
The phone number 8969 then started utilizing a cell tower in the vicinity of Providence, Rhode Island.
And did you locate that particular tower on the map?
Yes, I did.
And is that reflected here in this portion of exhibit number 422?
Yes.
And could you tell us, please, for what period of time then, when does the phone begin communicating with that particular cellular telephone tower in the vicinity of Providence?
That would have occurred on June 16, 2013 at approximately 9:20 p.m.
Now, did you continue to examine the record, including the SMS data from that cellular telephone 8969?
I actually compared the voice and SMS activity for that time period.
And could you describe for us, please, with regards to the, in particular, was the phone communicating with the same tower for the purposes during this period of time, beginning at 9:20, for SMS and data?
I believe voice and SMS.
I'm sorry. I
It's-
apologize. Voice and SMS.
Yes.
And if we could go to the next slide, please. Did you
I'm sorry.
locate now that tower that is located there? Is that the blue dot?
Yes, it is.
And could you tell us, have you been to that location?
Yes, I have.
And could you tell us where the red arrow is there? What is located at that street there, South Street and Richmond Street?
That's the location of South Street Cafe, which sits on the the southeast corner of that intersection.
And from that location, are you actually capable of seeing, or from that vicinity, the tower reflected there by the blue dot?
Yes, you are. You're able to see the top portion of it.
And did you then, observing the record, identify as well the text messages that are in the record for the phone 203-606-8969?
I did.
And now with particular reference to I could show, Your Honor, I'd approach the witness, exhibit number 158.
Your Honor, I object to
Could I see counsel? Let me just let you know the court is striking from that exhibit the red arrow you saw, which does not purport to be based on something that came from an exhibit, a business record in the case. The court has admitted this exhibit, as I indicated to you, as something that might be helpful to you in assessing the business records in the case, but to the extent there are red arrows or perhaps dots or other things in the exhibit that are not based on records that have been introduced in the case, the court has struck them. We're going to stop at this time to really allow the exhibit to be reproduced without those kinds of red arrows, so that as they come up, the court doesn't, you don't see them and the court strikes them. So a witness will be producing a new version of this compilation that doesn't have those things on it. So we're going to stop it at this time. Let me give you a little advanced preview of next week's schedule. We're going to have tomorrow, as you know, Friday, we are going a full day tomorrow. Next week, we're going to have a relatively short week. There will be no session on Monday or on Tuesday. We will go full day on Wednesday and on Thursday, and go a half day on Friday. So full day tomorrow, no session on Monday, Tuesday, and a full day next Wednesday and Thursday, and a half day on Friday. Please keep your minds suspended. Continue to avoid anything that could be about this case or Mr. Hernandez in any newspaper, radio, television, magazine, or any other media, or Facebook or Twitter or any social media. Please continue to avoid speaking or emailing or texting or in any other fashion communicating in any form with anyone about this case or Mr. Hernandez. And if anyone attempts to engage you in any kind of communication about your jury service or Mr. Hernandez of this case, please end it immediately. Please do not do any research about this case or Mr. Hernandez or anything that you think could in any way be relevant to the case. Have a good evening. We'll see you tomorrow morning.
All persons having anything further to do before the Honorable, the Justice E. Susan Gosh of the Superior Court, now sitting at 4